Alright guys, Scrappy again today. I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Drama going down last night after the OpTic versus Los Angeles Thieves series concluded. Dashy spotted on the Skyline hardpoint, potentially popping a couple of pumps in there, kind of like how Simp did on the Lambo and Hacienda just the other day. Now, Siv's ones, of course, are way worse in terms of going for multiple pumps in a row, and that, of course, was a red card. Cloud9 got blacklisted from scrims for a day, but the rumour had it that after this whole thing went down, the next situation, if anyone broke the rules, was going to be a guaranteed 1 week suspension from scrims. Is Dashy's one over the line? Is it a yellow card? Is it a red card? Do the pros still have any idea how to police any of this type of stuff? Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. We'll just finish off last night by discussing FaZe versus Rocker. This was actually a remarkable series, although I will say that having watched it, I do think that FaZe feel like the most complete team in the game right now. They will definitely think they should have won the first map here, but genuinely, this was a 2v4 takeover. Like, aBeZy and Nero, pretty much single-handedly, well, as a duo, they won those guys the game. They brought a remarkable comeback here on the Hacienda, and FaZe go down 250, 239. It was actually insane, though, how aBeZy and Nero were doing everything, and their other ARs were doing basically nothing. And that actually continued through the series in large part. But yeah, FaZe won the Search and Destroy. They then close it out in the other modes. I think that's the thing with FaZe. Like, Rocker are okay. They've got their problems, of course. Simp was having a bit of a masterclass here again in the search on the red card. But FaZe across all the game modes, they look very solid right now. Their Search and Destroy looks very good. Obviously, their control does. And it's an interesting story because we know that FaZe were struggling, absolutely, even in scrims against challenger teams. Wasn't long ago, they were losing scrims like 6-2, 5-3 to Omit and other teams like that. I don't imagine that's the case nowadays if they scrim them again because they grinded a lot. They were playing all sorts of scrim sets, more than any other team over the Christmas New Year period, and it's paid off in spades so far. They look much better in their Search and Destroy. Their control is getting back to where they'd want to be, and it's the same story in general in their hardpoint as well. I think the key reason behind this has been Cellium's impact. When Cellium first came into the league, he was not a slow player. If you guys even watch his VODs from MW19 and stuff like that, this guy was often using an MP5, playing very fast. But over the last few years, certainly, you know, Vanguard, I would say, and beyond, Cellium's become a very slow AR. That's kind of what we know him as today. And, you know, KD but not impact, and this type of discussion has gone around. And it's not necessarily easy to change the way that you play and the way that you have played with your teammates. But we know it's an undisputed fact that when Cellium plays faster and more aggressively, the team is just better. We saw it at the World Cup that it happens. FaZe win the map 3, they win the map 4. And Cellium has been bringing more pace to this team. And the final numbers, again, Cellium had a 1.4 this series, but crucially, with the most damage in the entire lobby. And I think this is actually the scary thing for the opposition, is that Cellium is now having Cellium series, as in, you know, 1.4s, 1.3s, but he's also getting the kills. I mean, he had 87 kills, far more than anybody else in the entire lobby, even with Drazah dropping a 40 bomb in the final map of the series. So, you know, Cellium playing this way, if they can keep him on this, they are going to be very tough to beat FaZe. If Cellium goes back to playing how he normally does, then FaZe are absolutely beatable. But the way that they've put in the work over the last couple of weeks, they've become very good. And yes, they lost the map 1 here in a way that they probably shouldn't have done. But after that, it was very, very smooth sailing for Atlanta FaZe against a Rocket team that, of course, have been pretty solid in recent times. However, what wasn't solid were PaulX's numbers this series. Geo had a 0.8, PaulX had a 0.5. I mean, look, I know I roasted Paul a couple of weeks ago for his numbers, and then I thought, you know what, maybe I'm being too harsh on him because Rocker are having good results, but no, I wasn't being too harsh on him. This cat is terrible, and he nearly had a 0.5. So yeah, it's rough to watch actually, just because aBeZy has actually been playing very well, and Nero's been having a Nero series, trying his best, and there was just no impact from the ARs. So, you know, HyDra might be calling, I don't know, time will tell as to whether they do something like that, but this is what Cellium said after the series. Our whole team had a talk, I want to play with them, I want to be fast, that's the crucial statement, but it is as hard work. I put in as much time as I can, I talk to coaches and have them help me out, just hard work, he says, because there's been lots of talk about this, right, especially with the way that FaZe and Cellium played, people criticising Crowder, and I can totally understand it, right, Crowder's been head coach over there, or at least one of the coaches, RJ as well, for some time. And, you know, Cellium seems to play the same way, and the team does the same thing, and they lose in finals again. And look, I'm not saying that they won't go to Madrid, look great to get to finals and lose. I've done that before, it might happen again. But Cellium's apparently been putting in the hard graft to improve himself as a player and become more impactful, and it's paying off right now in the league, because with OpTic and, you know, Thieves both looking shaky at times, it's not like FaZe haven't looked shaky, but they do look a more well-rounded team than probably anyone else right now, and they won the minor. So, you know, even though their numbers in terms of points in the CDL don't look great, as we'll get to at the end of the video, if this continues, they will go into Madrid as the favourites, as it presently stands. Just on this as well, from Diaz Biffle, who of course won the World Series of Warzone again several months ago. And as he says, around 20 people haven't even been paid, including his $100,000 that he's owed. No one is answering the email that was provided to us by the World Series of Warzone support. Very unprofessional. Now, you know, this is obviously a bit of a problem and raises a bit of a concern, I think understandably, about the state of things here in Call of Duty, that we've got massive tournaments, world championships, and the guys aren't getting their prize money. I imagine it's going to arrive eventually, but yeah, not a good look really for Activision, certainly if they're trying to pretend that they care about esports, and even on the Warzone side, which, you know, that's a bit of a question for sure. But let's talk about OpTic versus Thieves again. Series of the year so far in many respects. Game 5, OpTic make the comeback. They take it to a Game 5 round 11. It becomes a 1 versus 1. Scrappy, of course, first map, as he says, 6 kills, 750 damage, 10 miles, run around the map. So, you know, legendary performance there from Scrap, but in the end, this was the reaction from the OpTic watch party when Kenny clutches this 1 versus 2. You know, maybe Envoy thinks that he slid around the corner here, Kenny, and that's why he goes for the CHAL, but yeah, it was still a big misplay on multiple sides. Even the reaction, I thought, was, I mean, like, watch the Thieves guy's reaction. Ghosty's mind blown, he puts his hand on his head, obviously Envoy's not happy about it. HyDra is, you know, he just puts his head down a bit. I think HyDra's reaction is very entertaining, actually. He just drops his head. And then Scrappy's reaction, it's almost like he's going to laugh. It was so bad. He puts his hand, like the way that Scrappy puts his hand up to his mouth there, it makes me feel like he, you know, is just going to laugh at what he's just witnessed. And then obviously, you know, he kind of covers his head with his hands and all that, and OpTic are buzzing at the results. This was the immediate, you know, the absolute disbelief. Now, look, I'm not going to criticize Envoy too much because he has been playing pretty well for those guys so far. And it's not like HyDra or Scrappy, the real, you know, superstars meant to be, had great series themselves. When you watch HyDra's POV, it blows my mind that he's not always got like a constant 1.5, because like it's still disgusting. But yeah, it just hasn't really been quite working for Thieves as of late, certainly in the hard points. And yeah, this was Scrappy's reaction to Envoy losing the 1 versus 1. It may be a different story, they turn up to the major, who knows, but obviously Thieves now lost their last couple of games in a row. So OpTic buzzing about it, came with the 1 versus 2, GG's Thieves. Obviously Shotzzy was saying, you guys are dog, whatever, on the camera afterwards. I thought it was pretty funny. He ends the series and he like starts recording a vlog or something, picks the camera up and starts having a word. But the real drama that happened last night around this series was potentially snaking related again. So this was Sib at the minor against Ravens, popping some, I mean, look, this is a clear red card. He hits 1 pump, 2 pumps, 3 pumps, then he hits the 4th pump, he gets down, he hits the reload, he goes again, he hits 1, he hits 2, he hits 3, he hits 4, kind of 5, not really. So I mean, yeah, there's absolutely no doubt that that was a red card for Sib, if you guys are aware of, you know, the rules around snaking and what the pros have decided. So over the next couple of days, the pros then decided that they were going to blacklist the Cloud9 guys from scrims. Ghosty initially put out the tweet saying it was going to be a week. Then everyone said, well, we didn't really decide what the, you know, ban was going to be if somebody broke the GAs, so let's call it a day. And then next time it's going to be 3 days plus for anyone, first defense or otherwise. That was the conclusion. So, well, how do we find it today? As Octane says, Dashy Ford, Snake at Bet Void, gotta win to cheat GGs, etc. So he's having a bit of fun with it. This, though, was the clip. Now, I was mentioning this the other day, actually, when the Sib snaking thing happened, was that you want to ensure that the punishment is significantly, you know, strong, so that it disincentivizes players to actually do it at all. Because if you're a player, it's possible that you could snake and maybe get away with it, depending on where the camera is. I think that's the important thing here, right? Because, you know, there's 8 players on the map. there's only one that you can spectate at any one time. One of which here, to be fair, was Dashy in the eye line of the player in question who were actually spectating. But imagine somebody else was snaking a heady on the other side of the map. We'd have no idea because, you know, we're only seeing one point of view. But to be fair, somebody snaking is usually going to be in a position where they're in some sort of fight. So they may be on the camera to some degree. And then also, you know, ideally you'd think that the other player's perspective would say, that guy snaked me, and the point of view should be recorded and available if the CDL wanted to find them. But of course, it's not the CDL's thing. They don't care about snaking. Do it as much as you want as far as the CDL are concerned. It's the pros that are trying to enforce this rule set. So if somebody snakes on the other side of the map and, you know, I get killed by him and I say, hey, he was snaking me, but he wasn't on the broadcast because that's not where the observers were, and the CDL going to say, oh yeah, we'll go and find his perspective so you guys can blacklist him from scrims. Maybe they would, but probably not. So this is the clip here from Dashy, and we can see him on the top of Skyline. Now, I want to see his point of view. I think that might be kind of telling here if you want to get this concluded. But it's not so clear exactly what's happening. So, well, is this a snake? Is this not a snake? What can we tell? First of all, I mean, people are going to talk about the intention here because at the end of the day, Dashy is, you know, he's pumping, right? He's absolutely pumping, there's no doubt. Whether it officially complies to the rules here, right? Because if we go through this kind of like frame by frame, the first snake, it appears that he goes prone and then stands up again. So that, I guess, would be 1. The second one, he goes prone and then stands up again. I guess that would be 2. But the second one, he doesn't like fully stand up. I think this is the point, right? This is what people are saying, that why it's kind of marginal and why it's so difficult to enforce this. Because the second snake, he doesn't come all the way up again. You see how he goes from proning. So, okay, right here, he goes prone into crouch, into standing, and then the second one that he hits, he goes prone, but he actually doesn't stand up fully. He only crouches the second time, and then he does it again and then stands up again. So technically the second snake was like a little bit borderline, where he actually didn't snake. He kind of, you know, went prone, then crouched, and then he went prone and stood up again. So, look, I don't know what the rules are on this. I have no idea. I don't know what the pros are going to do about it. But the point is that it's a big argument. People aren't really sure whether this is, you know, snaking or not. Because, as I say, it looks like snaking at first glance, but then you look at it frame by frame and you say, well, actually, on the second snake, he didn't fully snake. He only went crouch. So probably by the rules, that's okay. So, yeah, I don't know. Yellow card, red card. What do you guys think? People have been debating this big time last night. Now, of course, what I will say is, it always does depend on the player what the community reaction is. If this was Cellium, I guarantee you 90% of the community is saying red card, we've got to blacklist him from scrims. Because it's Dashy, a well-liked player on the most well-liked team, the natural community reaction is going to be different. Should that sway the decision of the pro players when it comes to enforcing stuff? No, absolutely not. Although Dashy has apparently tried to give his take, because Attach was saying on stream last night that the pros were clearly discussing this in the group chat yesterday, and the conclusion is yet to be determined. I think they won't do anything. That's my feeling. But Attach was saying that Dashy was putting messages in the chat of video footage of other players snaking as well. So Dashy's like, look, if you're going to get me, then I'm going to bring everyone else down with me. So it seems like Dashy had some clips of other players popping something similar to Dashy that maybe we haven't seen. So I guess the point is, as Sib said when they got blacklisted for a day, like, let's just make sure that we keep the same energy all year. That was his perspective, because last year there were instances kind of like this that went unpunished, as it were, and Sib's team got punished for it, and the belief was that after that happens, from then on out, it was going to be 3 days minimum, a week, you know, potentially plus, in terms of no practice. Obviously, that's not what OpTic want to have to deal with at all over the coming days, so they're going to make their case that this actually wasn't a red card. And again, look, this caused a lot of controversy last week because the snaking happened. Could the pros properly enforce it? It seems like they kind of could, but what if you get a marginal case like this one with Dashy? What do you do then? Sib's obviously going to say, keep the same energy. It's time to go with the rules that we determined, but it's not so clear that that's the thing to do. So, yeah, as Dashy says, either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And here he is with Cellium and the snake. So, yeah, your thoughts in the comments below would be appreciated. Before we close out the video, these are the current standings. Well, critically, these are the major one standings. standings. Just wanted to clarify some of the distinctions here, because Minnesota and OpTic, they scored 10 points at the minor, FaZe scored 30 points at the minor, and Ravens scored 20, but none of them are counted here, because whether you think this is fair or not, the points from the minor were not counted towards the, qualification for Major 1. They only count towards World Championship qualification, so on the regular season standings, FaZe are at 50 points, but on the Major 1 standings, they're actually only at 20. They've only won 2 series so far, including the one yesterday. As it stands though, Falcons, Cloud9, and Gentlemates, I mean, they're 1-5, 1-5, 0-6. They're probably chalked in terms of winners bracket, to be honest. But it's still pretty much all to play for outside of that, and I believe that next weekend, OpTic play Toronto. So assuming that Ravens don't just win everything, then it's likely that OpTic versus Toronto will determine the number 1 seed going into Major 1 in Madrid. So very much interested in your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.